Whether y'all are newlyweds or you have been married for 26 or even longer years than we have, you might have times, and if you haven't, you will, where you have to talk about what do we want for our family. You look and see what your family of origin looked like and what you want to bring into your marriage and what traditions you want to have for your family and which ones you leave behind. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more about what that looks like in marriage.
Hey, I'm Rusty.
And I'm Heather.
And we're the Bryants, and this is the Redeemed Marriage Podcast.
We are here to encourage healthy marriages, strengthen wounded marriages, and begin the process of restoration to broken marriages.
We aren't licensed counselors, but we are a redeemed couple that loves the Lord and wants to help you journey through this messy, challenging, and fun part of life called marriage.
Oh, Christmas tree. Oh, Christmas tree.
You just waited just for me to take a breath. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Redeemed Marriage Podcast. This is Rusty and Heather Bryant. Now go.
Yes, I'm so excited. It looks like Christmas in our home.
We do have a Christmas tree put up and Christmas decorations, and
it's just fun.
Yeah, so it's right after Thanksgiving. If you're listening to this at a different time of the year, which we know a lot of you do, but to put it into context, it's right after Thanksgiving, but we're about to hit that Christmas season, which we love, but it caused us to start thinking about just the craziness that goes on sometimes in marriages and families and all the dynamics that go on. So we just decided we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, and honestly, this could be like 5 different podcasts.
Yeah, probably so. We a little bit of a disclaimer. We have a small group that we lead here in our house, and we meet not every week, but it is a marriage-driven small group, and so a lot of times we do a lot of our guinea pig. It's like having a focus group right here in our house. And so not that we were necessarily – it's not that we talk to them about what we're going to talk about on our podcast. It's kind of the other way around. We talk to them about things, and then it kind of spurs us to start talking about it on our podcast.
Well, and it gives us so much more information than just what we know, you know, like just getting outside of what – we think and seeing other people's lives and their dynamics and all of the things that they're dealing with too. It just kind of gives us a broader range of knowledge.
Yeah,
which I love.
We had them actually when we first started the small group a few weeks ago. We had them put a lot of topics and things that they wanted to discuss just in our small group setting. And one of them that was put down was just about just the different, you know, your upbringing and how that affects your marriage. And we've talked about that on different occasions on our podcast, but probably not just specifically. And where it's really kind of hit home is just because this week was Thanksgiving. And so everybody, I mean, I would think that every married couple out there, there's probably some sort of tension that goes along with, you know, the traditions that you grew up with and how you did things, and then, you know, how your spouse did things, and then you've got your family and trying to spend time with different family members and who's going to go where, and then all of a sudden you get into the whole Christmas thing, and it's all, I mean, it's chaos.
Yeah, there can be a lot of that. And I think that it gets crazier because you know what your family did and how they did it. Your spouse knows what their family did and how they did it. And then on top of that, you have things that your family did that you don't want to do. It's like, oh, I don't want to take that into my marriage and my family. And then you have your spouse has the things that they saw that they don't want to do. So there's just a whole lot of ideas and do's and don'ts that go into that. And then you lay on top of that expectations. Like, I expect it to look like this. This is what I want it to look like. And then when it doesn't look like that, then disappointment sets in. So there's a ton that goes into just preparing our hearts and our minds for literally one day.
Well, I tell you the thing that really hit me when we were talking with our small group. So we normally have there's 5 couples. That's including us, but today there were only 4 couples. And when we were talking with them and we had them just sort of talk about their background, one of the things that I found pretty fascinating was that for the most part, we're all kind of from the same area, at least. We obviously all live in the same area right now because we're able to meet together, but the backgrounds weren't extremely different. We do have one international that has an international background that they brought into it. We have one that their parents were divorced, and so there's that dynamic of having to deal with, different, a broken family, so you're having all of that goes into it. But for the most part, everybody was fairly, their families were a lot alike. There's a lot of similarities. But yet, as they were talking about it, it was still all of them chaos in some way and tension. I don't want to say necessarily chaos.
Is not necessarily but yes, some tension, some different dynamics.
Yeah, and what I really started thinking was that you think about all the people that listen to our podcast, and I would think that the dynamics that were being talked about on our podcast were probably the minority.
Yeah, so less than a tenth of what we probably...
so if you multiply the tension exponentially, I would think...
And circumstances and...
Then you're getting into some pretty serious stuff that can cause some real strain on marriages at this time of the year.
Absolutely.
And what we want to be able to say is that we want it... this should be the most wonderful time of the year. We could sing the song, the most wonderful time of the year. And instead, there's a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of dread even, and just it just becomes a lot, and it shouldn't be that way. It should be fun and enjoyable, and a time for you and your family to just be making sweet memories together. So we just want to talk about that a little bit today and how you can balance that and balance the expectations and the obligations that you feel while at the same time you're taking care of your family and setting the correct boundaries and all that kind of stuff. So
I think that probably the majority of the people, and I shouldn't say the majority, a lot of the people who listen to us have children involved as well, because I think that that's just probably the bigger percentage of our listeners, but we do have people out there that it's just the husband and wife.
Yeah, even our small group.
Yeah. And then not only that, we have some that they're empty nesters already. Oh wait, no, second honeymooners.
Yeah, not
empty nesters, second honeymooners again. But so I want to include all of it, but I wanted to start with our friends that are newlyweds, because I think that even in that stage where it's just the husband and wife before children, there's so much in that stage that you set the tone for the rest.
Yeah.
And so even if you're not in that stage, you don't need to think, well, crap, I've messed it up. Like I missed the key opportunity. But if you are in that stage and you don't have children yet, and it's just you and your spouse, this is a great time to have discussion about your expectations and what you want these times to look like. So I definitely encourage you to communicate with your spouse and ask, what was it that you loved about your Thanksgiving or Christmas, any holiday growing up? What did you love about it? And what do you wish you could change? And both of you kind of give your expectations, give your ideas, give what you loved about what your family did versus what you wish you could change. And it's just a beautiful discussion and dreaming about what you want it to look like. But even before kids, you have married couples that you want to spend time or the families want you to spend time with them during Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so even our couple in here that doesn't have children yet, that it's just the two of them, there was still some, well, we do Thanksgiving here or we do Christmas and then we have to go here. So it does just because you don't have children, you're still facing some of the same things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we were talking about this with our group earlier, I just started thinking about the big thing that when we finished it and wrapped it all up, it all came down to what you just said, is the communication. Mm-hmm. And, to just jump right into that, the communication part of it is the key, because we even admitted to our group that we made mistakes when we were younger and had just been married, because really for you, there were a lot of things about Christmas that were sort of in your mind at the time were non-negotiables. It was like, this is the way we do things, and you're gonna do it this way.
The way my family did it was right.
Yes, that's exactly. And I wasn't necessarily opposed, because it wasn't like it was weird and far out and just completely twisted from the way that my family would do things, but I was a little more open, I guess, early on, of I want our family to create our own set of traditions and, whatever boundaries and things that need to be put into place. Like those were things that I was really excited about and more looking forward to. Whereas for you were like, oh, I'm bringing my family into this. And so like my beliefs and my traditions and the way that I do things.
Yep.
And so it probably caused a little bit of tension, but I think what it did was just delay where we are now.
Sure.
Because as we grew and matured and had our own kids, we got to this stage of where we just started talking through, well, we don't really like how that was done. We prefer to do it this way. This is more beneficial to our family. This means more to us. And so we started kind of putting things together, and it's still a work in progress.
Sure, and it always will be. I know.
Yeah. But it really did come down to just being able to talk about it. When you were talking about, traditions, what are the things that you liked? What are the things that I liked? If we would have just sat down and really talked about that.
Right.
I mean,
nobody told us to do that.
Well, the crazy thing is that as we were talking about this, I somehow vaguely remember we had a really cool thing happen. We had so we got engaged in September, and we got married in July. So we had all these showers along the way, and at some point we had a Christmas shower.
I think it was around Christmas.
Yeah, which
really
I thought
cool.
was awesome, because people gave us Christmas decorations,
like
and
ornaments
and things like that. But somebody gave us a book, and it was supposed to be, and again, when you're young and in love and ready to get married, you're not thinking about doing this kind of stuff. But I remember it being, leading up to your first Christmas and putting down, what your favorite traditions
it was a red book,
were.
Wasn't it? I don't. It was called Christmas Memories, I think.
Yeah.
Where is that book?
I don't know, but I mean, it led up to your first Christmas, so you could write down the things that you wanted to remember about the first Christmas. But I specifically remember it having a spot where you kind of talked through what are the things that you wanted to do, like you did with your family. And my goodness, nobody told us that we should just actually talk about that kind of stuff. But so that's point number one. I'm the one that has to have the points. The point number one is talk about this kind of stuff.
Right. That's right. I mean, communicate.
Just communicate. And if there's things that you're not comfortable with and you don't enjoy, that's when you need to just have the discussion with your spouse so that you can make some decisions on, what's best for you and your family. Now, the second half of this conversation, I want to kind of turn it towards one of the things that really came out during our discussion today was how it's so important to have boundaries and to create boundaries that are beneficial for you and your family. But at the same time, there's this delicate balance of honoring and respecting the people in your lives that have invested in your life.
And loving them well.
So, yeah, if you want to jump on that for a second, because I just thought you did a really good job when you were talking to the group about that earlier.
Well, I think that it is very important that we say up front that your family, your marriage plus children, if you have them, has to be first. What you think is best for your family, whether that's we don't need to travel, whether that's we want y'all to come here, like that has to be important. What is important to your family? Because I mean that's scriptural in that you leave your parents and you're one with your spouse, and so you that has to be number one. But in that,
and you shouldn't be guilted, guilted into doing things that you're, that take away,
that go against
that or take away.
That's
you need to make sure your priority.
That's right.
Is your marriage.
And be firm in that. I mean, that you have to be. You have to be firm in your in protecting your family. And I'm not sure protecting is the right word.
It is, because there are people out there, like I mentioned, there are people out there that have to, because of circumstances that they're in, whether it's, broken families, or there's some families that are, that aren't, there's just dynamics that create
that could be not
problems and tension. And so there has to be real boundaries in some of those areas, to where one spouse is able to say and speak freely to their spouse and say, we're not going to let these people ruin our Christmas together, our holiday together, and so yes, there's definitely places that you have to put some real boundaries up to protect your family. But the way that we talked about it was that a lot of times when we talk about creating boundaries, it's not because there's a danger or a fear. It's more of an inconvenience.
That's right.
It's because, we want to set up this boundary because what y'all are asking us to do is an inconvenience to us, or what you're asking us to do is not our first preference.
Right.
And look, we're all for you having the best Christmas and the best holiday that you can possibly have. And if that means, hey, this Christmas you're getting on a cruise and you're getting away and it's just you and your family, more power to you. Right. That would be incredible.
Right.
But there's also the dynamic of being what you spoke into that I thought was really good.
Right. Well, and when I say you have to protect your family time, I think that is real important, especially when you have younger children. Have time where it's just your family, to do Santa and open presents and do all the things where it's just y'all. And honestly, a lot of us in our generation and in our society, it's a real tendency to say, and that's what we're doing, and I'm going to be selfish in that, and we're going to spend all this time here and just do this. And I think sometimes we lose sight of being honoring towards other people. But I don't want anybody to hear me say that this has to be done this way. I'm just using it as an example.
Or feeling obligated.
No, it shouldn't be an obligation. It is, and I don't know. I mean, like I really felt led in the Holy Spirit just in sharing what I did. And I hope that it comes out about the same, because I really, really felt prompted in the word honoring kept coming into my mind, because you want to respect and honor the people who have invested in your life and has poured into your life throughout, the years. We both have parents that have stood by us in some really tough times. I even mentioned for Rusty's family, because of our story, his mom and dad and sister chose to still love me and to accept me and to encourage me and to make me part of their family without any shame, there. And for me to just say, I want to be with my 4 family, and sorry, we'll catch y'all on some other time, is not respectful, and it's not honoring towards them. So because they're right here in our same town, and that's a whole nother thing. If we just happen to have all of our people right here in the same town, it is something that we need to do to include them in our family traditions. It doesn't have to be on that same day. Doesn't have to be, it may look different for everybody, but it's not something that I feel comfortable or you feel comfortable just shutting off and saying, sorry, we're not doing stuff with y'all. It's just our family.
Right. And of course, we have great relationships with our family, and we want to spend time with them.
And that's the same thing with my side of the family.
Exactly. And where there are people listening that they don't have the same type of relationship. And so, going to spend time with their extended family is like having a root canal,
right?
To some people.
And
so we're just blessed in that we enjoy being with them.
And if going to see family and all of that causes your family turmoil, that's one of those boundaries. Like us going over to parents or in-laws, or none of that is dangerous to our children or dangerous for relationships with our children or us. I mean, yes, is it inconvenient sometimes to try to make everything fit
all the puzzle pieces together?
But it's not something that we need to protect our children from.
Right.
It's just, and so like, I just want you to hear my heart in that it's not, like our sermon today was on giving, and none of our parents could care less what we give them for Christmas. They want our time. They want our families together, and they want us to be with them. If we said to any of our parents or grandparents, we're not doing gifts this year, they wouldn't say, okay, well, just don't come.
Right.
Like they just want us. They want, that's their joy. And as we age and our children grow up, we see the importance of that. We see how important it will be for our children to say, we just want to come and spend some time with you on this Christmas day or on the day after or whatever. So I just think that it's important to protect your family and to make sure that you're setting boundaries that are important to your I keep saying 4 family, but not everybody has a 4 family. That's what I just call ours, which is me, Rusty, and our 2 boys. But whatever your immediate family is, has to be the focus. But that doesn't mean everything else fades away. It just means that there's less emphasis on that. But it's still very important and still honoring to try to spend time with them.
Yeah. And I think really where that sometimes might come into play more is if one spouse is being a little more demanding about, we're doing this with my family, and because that's just, they've said we have to be here at this time. And if it's causing tension in your marriage, then that's the kind of stuff that needs to be discussed and talked about.
Yeah. If you spend, if your parents are separate, like not separated, but like distance far, help me.
Separated by distance.
And you're thinking, we can't see both sets of family in this holiday season. Well, you can't spend Christmas with the same set every single time,
right.
I mean, unless there's reasons for that to happen. But I'm just saying, like, you just have to be careful with and have good discussions about where are we going to spend Christmas, or who are we inviting over, or and it just goes back. I know that was our number one point, but that is the point. You just have to communicate with each other and talk to each other about expectations and about what you see your holiday season looking
and
like.
I think it's important too. Like if you don't have these set traditions, and it's sort of because I know there's some families out there that it really is a fly by the seat of your pants,
free
and
for all.
you don't know what's going to happen year to year, and that's when the communication needs to happen well in advance,
right?
At least between you and your spouse, so that the expectations, you know what's going to happen leading up to it, and it's not 2 days before Christmas you just get sprung on you know what you're supposed to do, and you're just supposed to be fine with that.
Yeah.
When you may have other expectations that you never shared with your spouse anyway. So yes, the communication is the main thing. The other is that your understanding of the seasons of life and how there is a time that you, while protecting your family and setting boundaries, there's also a time of being giving and giving your time back to the people that have given so much to you. I mean, one of the couples in our small group just talked about how much, the grandparents take care of the kids and keep the kids. So, I mean, why would you not honor them by hey, anytime I need you, you're coming over to my house to keep my kids. So
all year long.
Yeah,
and this is one ask.
Right. So I'm going to make sure that same kid that you're babysitting is going to get a chance to come to your house on Christmas Day, because it's magical.
So that you can see their joy in opening their presents and things like that. This is one of those topics where I think that people listen and literally could say, well, what about this? Well, what about this? Well, there's it's not just a black and white, do this, don't do this, all of that. And so I hope that that's not creating more frustration for people, but just to take away from our time together that your family has to be priority. Your immediate family your marriage, your spouse, and your children have to be your first priority. But in that, seeing how your family can bless other people, bless in-laws, bless extended family, in what ways that can happen. And so I just, I hope it's not a frustrating topic. I hope it's more of a encouragement to say, yes, your family has to be first. And your family, you have to think about your family and what traditions and things you want to put in place for your family, but then also, how can my family be a blessing to other people?
I think, just sort of in wrapping up, one of the other points that I would love to make is just that you also have to be really careful during the hectic Christmas season, especially, to not lose the relationship with your spouse. Like, this is, a marriage. And I mean, this is a marriage podcast, but I think that Christmas seems to be about kids most of the time, and it should be. It's fun. It's magical. There's all kinds of, there's the presents, and there's so much of that. But you can literally go 2 to 3 weeks and get to the end of the Christmas season and almost go, we hadn't really connected at all.
That's right.
Because it's been all about the kids.
And we're out of money.
Yeah, and then you just start, then you get the credit card bills, and it just, there's so much to it. And if you're not careful, the Christmas season can just, really ruin a lot of stuff. And so, my encouragement there is that you're a team throughout the whole Christmas season. Right. Whether that's, instead of, oh yeah, hey, I bought all the kids presents this year and wrapped them up and put them under the tree. Okay, great. And you have no idea what they are, how much you spent on. It's just, there's no teamwork there. And if you're able to do that together, and even putting stuff together for the kids, and it's it can be a time, if you purposefully put the effort into it, you can be a team, and you can watch the joy happen because you did it together. Yeah. And not just that. I mean, think about if you have kids, before you had kids, I mean, Christmas was really a romantic time of the year. I mean, the lights and finding time to go and, get coffee together and hot chocolate and walk around and see, and watching Christmas movies. And I mean, I love those Hallmark movies. Holy moly. But seriously, I mean, that's a time you can still connect that way.
Sure.
Even if you are 26 years into marriage and have 2 older kids, or even if you have little kids, there's ways to connect throughout the Christmas season. And so I would love to challenge everybody to don't let this Christmas season go by without being romantic towards your spouse and enjoying some time together when you can. All right. Well, we got about as far in this podcast as we did with our small group because we just kept talking about stuff and other things would come up. But it's a big topic, and it's a really big topic.
Important.
And we actually do have a communication tool that we're.
I hope to talk about that next week.
Yeah, we'll try to share that at least on one of our upcoming episodes. So, But hey, Merry Christmas, right? Because it's right around the corner.
Right around the corner. I mean, we won't have many.
No, just
between
a few
now
more.
and Christmas.
Just a
Because
few
Christmas is on Christmas Day, so like 3 more.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
it's getting
It's
close.
going to be here before we know it.
So enjoy your time with family, especially your family, and find ways to strengthen your marriage during the Christmas holidays. And we'll see you next time.